All right. So as you guys have been seeing, almost every player on every team has been put in health and safety protocols. Games have been postponed over the last couple of days. So to Fresh's idea, which he always suggests when stuff like this happens, the NBA used to G League. It's a bunch of vets, not even just vets. There's a lot of players who just been called up from the G League over the past couple of days to certain teams just to fill out some roster spots. Some vets have been signed from the G League 10-day contracts over the last couple of days. Lance Stevenson, Joe Johnson, Isaiah Thomas. And I know you was well, I'm asking about one because you was finding it weird that he wasn't, he probably hasn't gotten called. He hasn't gotten a call yet, but he probably will. But Mario Chalmers,
Yeah, he'll get a call soon because he just signed to the G League.
right? But to your point, though, is like just to all those vets, anyways. Like, why aren't they at least sitting on the bench on a lot of these teams even before the situation happens?
Right. So first, I want to tell the NBA. I know that you guys are tapping our lines because I've definitely been on my why isn't the NBA using their G League rant for a couple of weeks because I mean that's what it's there for,
Sure.
honestly. But I did say I didn't get why because it's a lot of quality vets in the G League. Period.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get why a lot of them weren't on certain teams anyway because certain players could be used. But I know Mario Chalmers in particular, like for me, I mean he's not that old of a player. He was a solid shooter. He was a good defender,
Yeah.
two-time champion. He's played well in the big three, too. Honestly, so I thought it was weird that he wasn't on the roster. Some teams needed some guard play, but he'll get called up in a minute because I think he's on the Nuggets G League team. I'm not sure,
That sounds about right.
but yeah, a lot of people getting called up. Lance is coming
To
to
the
the city,
Hawks.
so he's coming to the Hawks. I think we called up Malcolm Hill also. Joe Johnson's going to the Celtics. Like I said, Isaiah Thomas, he went to Denver G League team real quick, and
It's
then
not like Denver is the
he
one
went to the
signing all the
Lakers.
teams, and then they're going from there from Denver.
Yeah, yeah, because it's a certain amount of. I mean, because last team in particular,
Yeah, the Grand Rapids.
they
Yeah.
they had a couple of vets that like I expected to be signed
Right.
on their team. So yeah, for sure. So it's been cool to see because the COVID stuff has been crazy. Um, like all these games have been postponed recently. Who's postponed last night? The Nets and
Nets and somebody,
yeah,
yeah.
the Nets. Whoever
But
the Nets supposed to play
Raptors
last
and
night.
Bulls got
Yeah,
another game postponed, so this will be their second postponed game in about 2 weeks.
right. And everybody's keep talking about like a shutdown. I just wanted to let y'all know it's not gonna happen. Like people don't want to go backwards into the future, no matter if it should happen or not. It's not gonna happen. So the NBA we're gonna start getting to play. I mean, it's been a lot of stuff floating around about what they were gonna do to proceed, even like playing the discussion about playing players that tested positive but are asymptomatic,
Right.
which I had thought about that, but we don't get into COVID discussions on these
Well, not the
shows,
doctors.
right? So we keep our personal opinions to ourselves about that. Um, but then the G League thing had just came up more recently because the NBA extended the amount of players that you could sign like a year or so ago.
Right.
But I just always thought it should go down into the G League also, and not just with the vets, even some of the younger
Oh,
players.
yeah, definitely.
Our GM for the Atlanta Hawks, Travis Schlenk, he spoke to how it was important that we had the Skyhawks because even though they didn't necessarily call up any players from the Skyhawks as they're not rookies, just having those players for one, he said these are players that are already playing, so you know they're in shape and stuff like that. But I personally just feel like all the teams should have a team because then they kind of know that they know what your organization is thinking. They know your routine kind of it can kind of filter into each other. That's why the Santa Cruz Warriors do pretty well because they are really connected to the Golden State Warriors, the Raptors. We talked about this the other day on the show. So
Right.
use the G League NBA.
No, for
And
sure.
we'll take 10% cut to the Hoopers.
No, for sure. And I'm John W.
Fresh X.
And it's the Hoopers afternoon session. But one person who I know everybody's in love with right now, I know I like him as a rookie as well. I still like him. Dejounte Murray, who's been he's not necessarily been the trade talk, but he's been if the Spurs can get Ben Simmons, everybody knows it starts with Dejounte Murray and you go after that. And Dejounte Murray, is having an exceptional season. 18 points, 8.4 rebounds, 8.6 assists. We know he's gonna bring lockdown all NBA defense. But if the Spurs, let's say they pull this trade off, I don't care. We just gonna do straight up. I know it's not gonna happen straight up because Ben Simmons is a 3-time All-Star. But if you straight up Dejounte Murray, Ben Simmons, does Dejounte Murray move the needle for Philly this year, in your opinion?
Yes, and before we go there, when I first thought about players that could be traded for Ben or who makes sense, Dejounte Murray was always someone I had in mind, but seeing him play this year has convinced me that making the trade would be okay. Because he was somebody I thought about, but I was like, nah, I wouldn't do it for Dejounte Murray or whatever. But seeing him at 19, 8-8, and I feel like it's consistent. I feel like he's hitting that curve because it was also him trying to stay healthy.
Right.
It makes sense because you got to understand what you're trading for with Ben. So what you want to get in return. Doc has been on record saying how like it's glaring what they missed with Ben. We was talking earlier about how I noticed that Joel Embiid is like bringing the ball up court more just to have the ball in his hands and just so one of your best players can make a play. So they're just trying a lot of different things. And while Tyrese Maxey is a really good player, I don't think if Philly wants to win a championship, which they want to, they was the first in the East last year. They don't want to take a step back. I don't think Tyrese Maxey is ready to be their starting point guard. He's a contributing piece, but he's not their starting point guard. So the two people to me that has made the most sense was if we're going non-All-Star, it's been De'Aaron Fox and Dejounte Murray. Like I said, I had to be convinced with Dejounte and his play. He's convinced me. And the other person was, for me, is Jaylen Brown. Those are the only three people that really make sense. But to the point with Dejounte, back to what we were saying, he does it for Philly because he brings what Ben brought defensively. Even though Ben finished second in Defensive Player of the Year, which means that is another step.
All right.
We saw Dejounte Murray be first team all defense 3-4 years ago. So the defense is there. Philly has played over these last few years with a big point guard, so that's kind of been what their system has been used to. So you still get the size with Dejounte. He's like what 6'5",
6'5",
so, yeah, and he's slim, so he has a good wingspan or whatever. So he fits into that. I think what helps is he's going to be more aggressive than Ben was offensively. So
I think that's definitely the key.
Because Ben, to this point, he's never averaged even 19 a game. So just knowing that he can have those nights where he'll be more aggressive because he's not a knockdown shooter either. I couldn't tell you if he was
He shooting 37% this year.
I couldn't honestly tell you if I respect Dejounte Murray's jump shot or not. Honestly,
I
wouldn't want him to. I would rather him shoot on me than beat me to the basket. That's how I am. That's where I'm at with his game right now. But I think he's a respectable shooter. Yeah. I think he can knock down some shots. So that's clearly been something that was missing with Ben. But he asked what Philly need a point guard. That's really what they're missing. You don't have your 3-time All-Star point guard. Dejounte is, if the Spurs were better, he'd be an All-Star this year. So
for sure.
So I think he helps Philly for sure. I definitely think he helps Philly. And trading for Ben, if the Spurs had decided to do that, I know we just talking about straight up, but they would have to add something else to the Spurs, so you also could get something else with that Ben trade. So it looks good to me. I think at some point, I get the whole like he's willing to sit out for the whole year, and you're gonna find him just to switch it real quick. But I think at some point you kind of hurting just as much as he looks like a spoiled athlete, you kind of hurting your team at some point where y'all like trying to compete for a championship, and once it becomes so blatant that he's not going to be a professional and show up and play, I don't know about his mental health status. I don't really care about it. We don't got to speak on it no more, so I ain't disrespecting it, but I don't know about it, so I don't care. He's not playing. He's not trying to play. He's not trying to be a professional or short to play. Your team is trying to compete for a championship. I think at some point, Daryl Morey and Elton Brand is hurting his team by not trading for someone else.
No, yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah. Especially at this point, it's like there's other. I get they want the top 25 player, but there's other players that can help them at this point.
To the point, because it's always don't give them away. But if the Spurs are interested, I don't know if they are or not, but if they are interested, it makes sense to work with them, especially when you can get 19, 8-8 back and another piece. If Sacramento was interested because they keep drafting guards, it makes sense to get a guard that's averaging 23 points, and you can negotiate getting something else because they aren't all-stars. So you aren't necessarily going to get – it's not just about getting one player.
It's about getting enough players to help you compete.
That makes sense. And it's also not about just trading him for a bunch of role players either. I was never on board with just trading him for a bunch of role players. But if you're trading him for borderline all-star, like over the summer, it was C.J. McCollum and stuff like that, that helps the team.
No, for sure.
Not CJ at this point because they don't need a shooting guard. Steph Curry's having a good year.
No, for sure. No, yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, as long as it's players that can help at the positions they need them at, it'll be a good trade.
But the GM, just the last thing, they look just as bad as Ben, honestly, because this team wants to compete. Joel was second for MVP last year. They was first in the East. Doc is not a rebuilding coach.
Nah.
Trade that, man. Move on.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I got a question real quick because shout out to Sage Alvarez, as everybody know on Twitter. You make sure people come to your page and follow you and check out your content. But he asked a question yesterday. He asked a couple questions, but one of them was, "Who's on your Mount Rushmore coach?" I'm pretty sure I've asked you this before.
Coaches?
Yeah, pretty sure I've asked you this before. I know my coaches. I don't know how many it is on Mount Rushmore. Is it 4 or 5? I always just go 4. So, of course, I had Red Auerbach, Phil Jackson.
4 is so weird because that's why I was 5 people before.
Yeah. So, Red, Phil, Pop, and Pat. Who would be your Mount Rushmore?
Same exact people. Red, Phil, Pop, Pat. And
I seen somebody had Lenny Wilkins on theirs.
Lenny Wilkins was a great basketball mind. He was a solid coach, but no. And he coached for our Atlanta. He's a great player. Also, Lenny, he's a great basketball person. But the Mount Rushmore, no, it's easily Red because obviously the championships that he ran up, the system he put in with that team, Phil, his way to get Jordan and Pippen to play into this system, the way he was able to get Shaq and Kobe to mesh and then rebuild it with Kobe to be able to do those egos. Obviously, Pop, we've just been looking at his schemes over all the years and everything he's done with the dynasties that they built in San Antonio. And even before the success, I mean, when it was him and David Robinson, he was there. So you know why Pop is on there. And I mean, the other was Pat Riley. I mean, you just look at the dynasties that Pat has built, or the situation that he's been a part of. He's built up this entire Miami Heat franchise from he took over from the ground up, and now they're 4 champions up, 3 championships up.
3.
The most successful run for the New York Knicks in the last 40 years was when Pat was the coach. Then, of course, you got his run with the Lakers, obviously. So, the next person that's going to try, and he just don't have enough time in, is Steve Kerr. He's going to try and make some noise with that list. He already has the championship. Spoelstra, not Mount Rushmore. I think Spoelstra's going to go down as one of the greatest coaches ever because he and it makes sense. He was a video guy, so he watched a lot of film. Plus, he came up under Pat. I think he goes down as one of the best coaches ever, one of the most respected coaches ever. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame. But Mount Rushmore, like, we're talking about the best coaches ever. And I think
with honors.
And what's going to come out of this Steve Kerr is really how he's taking stuff to the next level. Because I know everybody says that he used the Mike D'Antoni system at Alvin. He did use a mix of all that, but you got to also remember he was around this stuff. So it makes sense that Steve is where he is. He played for Phil. He played for Pop. He was there for the he built the GM.
He put
exactly.
He put that Mike D'Antoni, Alvin Gentry, Phoenix Suns teams together.
And now we see what he's doing with these Warriors teams. And we saw it, like, people can think what they want about the KD teams and how it was a super team, or he took a really good team over from Mark Jackson that had one really great player that had superstar potential that needed to be healthy, and he built it into a dynasty. Obviously, then you added KD, and he made it work. They were injuries away from 3 straight, which we all know how hard that is or whatever. But now to see him remix it and how good they are this year, Steve Kerr is gone. His run is not over yet, like some people may have thought it was. No, he was one of the things I never doubted about the dynasty, because just to end it, I always thought, other than Steph, everyone got too much credit other than Steph and Steve Kerr. They were the ones that made it work.
No, that makes sense. But just to get to the Warriors real quick, I'm going to skip around what I was going to talk about. The Warriors, I know you haven't necessarily been down the Warriors, but you haven't really had them in title contention area.
I don't think they're winning in all this year.
As much this year. They're still number one. Still best record in the NBA. Like sitting at like 30-8 or so, 20-8 or something like that. Do your chances go up with every couple wins for you, or is you still waiting to see what the full team look like with
I'm just waiting to see what it look like with Clay, because Clay matters. Clay matters and Wiseman matters because they're gonna need some size at some point. They're gonna need some size in the playoffs. It just is what it is. We play a 7-game series. The whistles are gonna be tighter. than they are now, or looser, I guess. They're gonna let them do more physically than they are now. So, but they expect Clay to play a big role. Excuse me. They expect Clay to play a big role with this team. So, and I don't expect Clay to be 24 or 23 a game.
Right.
20. I don't even expect him to be 20 a game, but like I expect Clay to shoot 40% from three, maybe average 14, 15 points, and that elevates this team because Clay, I do expect a healthy Clay to have a game where it's like, yeah, he's back. I just don't expect him to, try to average 20 or whatever. No. But if Clay and Wiseman are healthy, that's my only expectation of them. Healthy, not doing even above, just playing to their potential. If Wiseman is healthy and do what he did last year, what was he like 11-7, something like that?
People hated that. He's a bust.
Yeah, but that makes his team a lot better. So I think those are two crucial pieces. Just because I don't trust nobody else in the playoffs. So when Steph's having a bad game, what's going to happen? I like Jordan Poole. He's my pick for most improved player. But to give Clay his credit, even though I just said I think Steph was the undeniable superstar, we've seen Clay become a playoff superstar.
All right.
So I don't know if Jordan, and you need that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Jordan Poole have that, and that's gonna matter to win the championship.
Or even just get back there. No, yeah, that's definitely a fair point because, like you say, Jordan Poole's playing great, and it's not to say he's not gonna play good in the playoffs, but you never know if he's gonna be ready for those moments because he hasn't been having to be ready for those moments yet.
I've said for years, like when Steph have a bad game, it's not because of anything. He's seen every defense known to man. He's just not making shots that night. So what happens on those nights when he's not making shots? That's usually when Clay, even if Clay isn't going off, he's giving you that 27, 25. Yeah, so Clay, I want to see what they get with Clay, but I think that's the only thing I'm waiting to see with them. But I like them more and more every month because I like as they getting healthy. I like what Otto Porter has meant to this team because I was a big fan of Otto when he was on the Wizards team out of Georgetown, number 3 pick in the draft or whatever. And he's a smart player. He fits with this team.
Yeah.
I remember it was talks about like fitting him on this team years ago when it was all the KD discourse, and he was one of the players. Oh, you just put him in there or whatever. I know that's a little throwback, but I like where he plays the role for this team. Yeah. Gary Payton Jr., where he's brought Draymond, like he's out. Draymond's motivated to play. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA. So I know he's on a lot of people's defensive player of the year list so far. So
I think he's number 1 on the NBA defensive player of the year ladder right now.
Yeah, the list I saw the other day, he was first.
Rudy Gobert and Matisse Thybulle.
Yep, that was the top 3 for the list the other day. So they got a good chance though. But when Steph's having a bad game, who's gonna help him out?
No, for sure. So as you know, we're a couple days from Christmas. I'm not talking about Christmas for present sakes. I'm talking about Christmas for NBA sakes. And this for a lot of people is, I hate that it's like this, but this is for a lot of people when the NBA starts because this is when you kind of get some of the intense games and you start seeing who's who and start to filter out some teams. I don't know why the NFL even playing games on Christmas. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, they get Thanksgiving.
Right. Oh, yeah, I'm trying to play on Christmas. But, of course, as you know, as I said earlier in the show, a lot of players have been put into health and safety protocols. The only players that seem to be coming out of health and safety protocols are Laker players for whatever reason. They still losing by 20. But I haven't seen – I didn't see it because, what's the point of – what are you going to do? You going to switch the schedule up, have different teams on? I don't know if you can do that or not. But, of course, Adam Silver has contingency plans for this, know the games. I guess, like I say, you can't cancel games. Are they really going to have somebody else play that wasn't scheduled to play? But what would your contingency plan be for this situation? Because just call up G League players because you're going to not play the games on Christmas?
Right, because the Christmas games are basically just the TV games, if I'm not mistaken, right?
But those are the only games that's on, though. Like, nobody else is scheduled to play on Christmas.
Not any other slate of games. I've seen that they've said that they may adjust, like, some times and stuff. But honestly, I think the plan is just going to be to sign G Leaguers. G Leaguers have been approved to play immediately or whatever.
Sure.
But I think, I just think that's mainly what the plan is going to be. And then if it's too bad, then they're going to have to postpone games. But they're definitely not going – maybe if it's because I didn't read it exactly. So from what I read about it, I don't know if it was like a team could be informed maybe a day or so before the game that they would play as a replacement game. But I just think they're gonna call up G Leaguers, and if it's too bad, they're gonna postpone them. That's just the main thing that's gonna happen. But I just say call up G Leaguers. Most of these teams have affiliates. Most of the teams that are playing that day have an affiliate. The Hawks have an affiliate. The Knicks have one. The Bucks have one. The Celtics don't. The Warriors have one. I don't believe the Phoenix have an affiliate.
I don't think so.
The Nets have an affiliate. The Lakers have an affiliate. Dallas has an affiliate, and so does Utah. So use your G League teams.
No, for surely. I had a thought. I lost it real quick, but I just think, like I said, oh, here we go. If you're a player and your team wasn't already scheduled to play on Christmas, and you get a call like, "Hey, we're waiting on the call because we might have to play on Christmas now," would you realistically play that game because you're not even thinking about playing that game anymore? Like, would you want? Not would you want to play? Would you play?
I would, because the bonus would be nice. Go ahead and call it, get the Christmas game, because there's probably somebody that probably wouldn't even play on Christmas anyway. So I'd be prepared to play.
No, you definitely gonna be prepared.
Time. But I guess
I'm saying the day, like one day before, like, hey,
if I was told initially that it's a chance that we're gonna be told at the last minute, then I would play. But if I was literally told at the last minute, then probably not. Like if you call me New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve. If you call me Christmas Eve, 8 p.m. Hey, y'all playing tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Hey, ain't gonna be no game tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
No, I'm not playing tomorrow. Or that's got to be a big bonus.
No,
big Christmas bonus.
They got to come right from Adam Silver's pocket. So I guess the second part to this question, which I just thought of as well, should the NBA going forward from now on have something like this in place to where there are already alternative games ready? It's just in case something like this happens again in the near future or far future.
For the TV games, yes.
Yeah, no, just for the TV games.
For all the TV games, yes, because you got to keep your partners happy, and that's the main thing with some of this stuff comes down to. They've given away and worked with each other on so much money over the last couple of years, because I know everybody want to care about COVID. We all should care about it, I guess, but we all know money rules the world, and people, the NBA want their money, their partners want their contracts to be satisfied or whatever. Players want their money. So that's just what it comes down to, really. So I do think that you should have, and I think it should be like that, period. I mean, even when injuries are a thing, like when the Pelicans were scheduled for a lot of games and Zion didn't play,
take them off the TV schedule.
Switch it up. Like we see colleges
do
they've
done it this year.
Yeah, so I think that should be a thing anyway, but definitely this year, if it's supposed to be a TV game and a lot of players are out, marquee players, because then I will cancel certain games, especially not cancel the game, but I will switch to TV game.
Yeah, switch TV game.
I like it that a TV staff on site ready to go.
So. Right. No, yeah, for sure. But just anyway, what Christmas games are you looking forward to just right now?
Initially,
I know it's going to be a lot of players in health and safety protocols, so it's going to be some players out. But
right, so I can't even think of who's really going to play. So I'll just say I know initially I was definitely looking forward to Nets Lakers. I don't know who will play by then, because I don't know how long certain people have been in protocols. I don't even know who's eligible to play, but I feel like James should be like on the way back by now, right? I don't know, but we still got a couple days, and if you test negative for a couple days in a row, you can play. So
for sure.
we'll see what happens. But either way, regardless, even if they don't play, I'm still kind of looking forward to that game, because I want to see the Lakers have a good showing on TV.
I guess that's the best way to have a good showing, right? All the other teams, those players out.
It's really been, LeBron has been rolling recently. Shout out to him, like he's getting 30 every other night. Melo has been his main partner. Melo got thrown out the game last night. Got 2 techs. But the Lakers need some players to step up, and maybe playing on TV will help them do that. But other than that game, I think it's easy to look forward to the Hawks games initially, because we wanted to see Trey in the Garden again
on Christmas
or whatever. But I really just want to see Trey on Christmas. I don't really care about him playing in the Garden. I just like that the Hawks got a Christmas game.
Sure.
I don't even feel like we were getting Christmas games when we had Joe Johnson.
No.
And we were winning 50 games a year. Making the playoffs, we weren't. I don't.
As long as they don't wear those yellow jerseys,
right? Yeah, we didn't get a Christmas game when we won 60. They should bring back special Christmas Day jerseys on top of the other jerseys. But I like the sleeve jerseys. So I don't like the players playing in them, but I like
the sleeve jerseys. Yeah. They should bring the nicknames.
I will own them or whatever. But
they should bring the nicknames back on back of the sleeve jerseys. hit him with a double whammy.
But is Steph playing? Steph playing, right?
I don't know. Is anybody playing?
Right.
I know, like I say, I don't know.
Because these were all honestly were a good mix of games.
Before, no, they were.
Because we got Warriors, Suns again. Who even knew that they were going to be at the top when this was picked out? But obviously, everybody want to see Nets, Lakers. So you want to see KD, LeBron.
Yeah.
And even the last game, seeing Dallas and Utah, that game should be interesting. Too. So I want to see Donovan Mitchell have a big night. Maybe go for like 50 on these people, so they can give Spider-Man some respect.
Well, it's been a good season so far. I'm saying it every time we speak on the season. Shout out to the NBA 75, which it is. Did you know yesterday was the 130th anniversary of basketball being invented?
I did. I saw that. It was the anniversary of the first game played when Dr. Naismith came out there with the leather ball with the laces on it.
Props to you, Canada. The Canadian invented basketball.
That's the only thing Canada has contributed to the game of basketball since. I guess they won one championship. So I give them fair. I'm sorry. They also Jason
just the championship.
Just the championship.
Just the championship.
Championship and Naismith invented basketball.
Right, so shout out to y'all.
And he did that in America, so he just happened to be
Canadian. Canadian. So shout out to Dr. James Naismith for making sure we all got something to talk about when it comes to basketball. But other than that, like I said, it's been a great season so far. There's been some great players. Has anybody been underachieving to you? Or is everybody about playing a little bit about where you expect them to play?
Mainly the Pacers. Honestly, I know that's a random one.
No, they are
because
underachieving.
You bring in Rick Carlisle, he's not a rebuilding coach, even though I think he's there.
Did you see stuff that came out about Rick Carlisle about the situation in Dallas? So he never wanted to draft Dennis Smith. He wanted Donovan Mitchell, and Mark Cuban was like, "No, we're drafting Dennis Smith." I'm paraphrasing right now. So basically, what I was reading, Rick Carlisle basically sabotaged Dennis Smith. I'm not saying it's true, but this is what was reported. Because Luka didn't want them to trade Dennis because Luka was like, despite their differences of how they play on the court, he liked playing with Dennis Smith. Like he wanted to play with Dennis Smith. Like he wanted to see if it could work. I don't know how much of this is true, but this is why I read this about 2 weeks ago. And I get it. Like you want one player, but when you don't get that player that you wanted, you got to go on and be a professional and be a good coach and put the team you have in place in the best position to win and not. Like I said, I don't know how much of this is true, but you can't be berating your players because you didn't want that player drafted.
Oh, newsflash. A lot of coaches are just as unprofessional as they say that some of the players are. Coaches will, if they don't get their way, sabotage certain players or not get the most out of those players. There's been a couple of stories of players even remember Doug Collins. Shout out to Doug Collins. I respect him. But remember, he didn't want Evan Turner. He wanted Derek Favors, and that kind of affected how he coached them or whatever. So it happens. I watched Jalen Rose the other day say how Larry Brown told him that Weber's here and Jimmy Jackson them is here and you right here, and I'm going to determine where you go, trying to kick him out the league. So, these people, we all know that the NBA isn't just about basketball.
Oh, sure.
And while Dennis Smith did have certain injury issues and some of us feel particular ways about how he worked out in the summer. Me in particular, I just felt like he just played pickup and just did what he did, but didn't necessarily work on too much, but he had injuries. Also, Dennis Smith was a really talented player, and it's always just odd when players go from showing a little bit of promise to just, all right, he can't play at all. And then after you get down the line, then you start getting into the confidence issues, and now it's a whole nother thing. So it doesn't shock me. Luka and Dennis, whether we think it could have worked or not, how did they ever really get the opportunity to play together? Yeah, Dennis was traded in Luka's rookie year while he was hurt earlier in the season, so they didn't even get a chance to play together. So, we don't even know if it could have worked, honestly. So I hadn't heard the story. Obviously, we don't know how much is true or not, but it wouldn't be surprising. It definitely wouldn't be shocking if that's how it went. And Rick Carlisle, I start out by saying he's a coach I respect. People respect him, period. He's the president of the Coaches Association for a while, so he ride for coaches. But there have been certain players who haven't gotten along with him. As many players that they are that have praised how smart he is and that he knows the game. Like he came up under Larry Bird. He was on the Celtics teams. He's a smart coach. He's a really good coach. But we all know it was certain players have came out, like Rondo in particular, doesn't like him at all. And Rondo's the guy that's really smart in basketball. I don't think nobody doubts Rondo's IQ, but he's one of those guys that has clashed with him. So it has been certain people that have clashed with him. And my point with bringing up Rondo, though, is when he clashed with him, he did kind of make it seem like Rondo couldn't play no more. Remember, he was like not playing him in certain situations and stuff like that. And when they traded for Rondo, he was leading the league in assists at the time, and that really kind of changed the next chapter of Rondo's career. Honestly, it didn't sabotage him. Obviously, he was still able to. I mean, for a minute, people didn't want Rondo. Honestly, if we just being real about it, so. Yeah. It is a realistic thing, and Rondo's a vet. So, but that's when Rondo got traded to Sacramento. I mean, from Sacramento to there, he was leading the NBA in assists easily.
I thought he traded from Boston to there, and then he went from Dallas to Sacramento.
No, I thought he went from Sacramento to Dallas. Either way, I know when he got traded to Dallas, he was leading the NBA in assists, and when he left Dallas,
he went from Boston to Dallas to
people wondered if he could play in the NBA still after he left there. So coaches can shape. They definitely can shape how you looked at.
No, for sure. Yeah,
that's a vet with a championship. So Dennis Smith was in his second and third year. Not hard to believe. So, but we don't know for sure.
No, yeah, I don't know for sure. But to your point about the Pacers this year, they are very underwhelming, which has led to a lot of their players being on the trade block. A lot of their better players being on the trade blocks. And Indiana's one of those weird teams because they're always good enough to make the playoffs, never good enough to win a championship, never bad enough to miss the playoffs, and never bad enough to be a lottery team. So it's hard for them to really sit down and figure out how to rebuild. I know we've talked about this before, but Indiana's one of those teams, they can't necessarily, their fans won't let them tank either. So they're always stuck in a tough position of let's just putting a good team out there that's going to be a first-round exit. Do you think that hurts the Pacers? Like, I know it sounds crazy to say because it's not like they're missing the playoffs, so players don't want to go there. But it's such a middling franchise. Do you think that hurts their free agency chances more than just playing in the state of Indiana?
Yeah, slightly. I think slightly because the Pacers are a team that they're willing to make necessary moves to not be bad because they aren't typically bad. They're usually solid. They're willing to make the typical moves to not be bad, but they never do nothing over the top. To be great, because I mean they've been to one finals in their history. The one time they did make moves and brought people in it ended with the Palace. I mean they traded for Ron Artest, they traded for Steven Jackson, Brian Jermaine O'Neal. That was what people thought was going to be the best team in history in their history, and it ended after 7 games, whenever it was. And so
one season in 7 games.
But you know that the fans are going to support. So that's when also. You know, you always hear about certain teams in the NBA that say teams aren't trying to win championships every year because it's just a matter of what your fans are going to appreciate. You know, they're going to support you as long as y'all are good. So as long as y'all aren't trash, do we really care? We go to the finals. We want to be good. We want to compete.
Indiana's a basketball state too, so they just want to see good basketball. On every level.
Because they've always been good. They've had a team in the conference finals in every decade, the last decade, 3 decades so far. I mean. Paul George them team last decade, Jermaine them team the one before that, and Reggie them went to the finals in the 90s. So they're around. You just can't ever get on over the top. But when you just look at the people on their team, like they literally have players on their team that are certain people traded for these pieces. That might help their championship aspirations. So Indiana's been disappointing, but other than them, that's about it.
All right.
I could say I'm disappointed in the Hawks, but I knew this season was going to go 2 ways. I knew the Hawks was going to come in and they was going to kick it. They have had injuries also, but we had injuries last year. I knew they were going to either come in this year hungry, motivated, and run through the year, or they were going to play lazy and think we made the conference finals last year so we can slide through the season.
I'm not even necessarily. I mean, I'm disappointed. The Hawks are kind of unachieved. I'm more disappointed in the fans who are just. I feel like they're doing the same thing they were doing last time around this year. Like they don't like the coach. They don't necessarily like anything about the team. It's the same story.
Same story.
They did. I don't think they did enough for us for the Hawks. Excuse me, not us. I ain't got no jersey on, but I don't think they did enough for fan expectation to be championship or bust. Which is what it feels like if you look at.
It's not.
If you look at NBA Hawks Twitter, like it looks like nobody like. Nate McMillan could get fired in the next 3 days if it was up to Hawks fans on Twitter.
Yeah, I was shout out to 92.9 game. I was listening to that the other day, and they was talking about how. Around this time, it was the Lloyd Pierce thing, and it was a disconnect with Lloyd Pierce. So they like, is it a disconnect with Nate, or are the people just not listening to him, or is it just a matter of early in the season people have been out? It's just been a lot going on, but the Hawks they'll be all right.
No, yeah, for sure. Other than that, you got anything else for this afternoon session?
Other than that, appreciate everyone as always for viewing. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube. Just search the Hoopers Pod. You can go back and watch all of our runs, our morning runs, the afternoon sessions. We got more afternoon sessions coming soon. All of that is on YouTube. So go to YouTube. We also got some more content coming to YouTube in 2022. We got about 2 weeks left in 2021. So 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. Yeah. So YouTube, subscribe, comment. If you don't like the Hooper of the Night, let me know. Let us know. Who do you think should have won?
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Duncan Robinson for being named Hooper of the Night.
Yeah, we just going to get that.
Boom.
But, yeah. YouTube, shout out to Nothing But Net channel through the Dash Radio app. Make sure you download the Dash Radio app on whatever type of device you got. Apple Store, Google Play Store. That's what Androids use, right? Google Play, I guess. I don't know. Whatever you Android users use, download the Dash Radio app. Get the Nothing But Net channel. You can catch the Hoopers Hour every Monday at 3 p.m.
Along with the rest of the Off the Ball Network block starting at 11 a.m.
Yeah, you might as well just get on at 11 and just ride on through us with, brunch and your lunch sessions with the Off the Ball Network. And, of course, shout out to the Off the Ball Network as always. Other than that, shout out to everyone who voted for the Hooper of the Night. You guys all were wrong. You clearly didn't watch the game. That's why Duncan Robinson is the Hooper of the Night. So shout out to Duncan Robinson. And we're going to have that video drop for y'all soon. So that's all I got.
No,
sure. I didn't watch the game. I'm disappointed. Everyone who chose Tyler Hero over Duncan Robinson, you did not watch the game. I'm calling you out right
Trick
here.
Question.
Right. I thought somebody was going to write it in or be like, hey, these choices ain't enough. They were like, Duncan, it was Hero and Brunson.
Yeah, they tied. Yeah.
And wait, who else was on the list?
It was Hero, Brunson,
Devin Booker,
and Nick Alexander Walker.
Shout out to him for showing some life because I didn't know that he was still in the
league.
league.
13 this year.
Shout out to him for showing some life because I didn't know that he was in the league. I'd be very disappointed when I watched Nick Alexander Walker play at times.
I feel you. And then, of course, Tyler Hero and Jalen Brunson tied, so we had to do a double poll. Tyler Hero was winning, then we went back and watched the film, and Duncan Robinson won. That's how you win it. Shout out to the halftime app. We will be on at 6. I was thinking, let's talk Simmons tonight. Let's talk big man.
Ooh, that's a big one.
We're gonna talk Simmons. We're gonna talk Simmons and Power Forwards. I'm not gonna lie. We're gonna knock out 2 and 1 tonight. We're gonna try to anyway.
Yeah, definitely shout out to the halftime app. We there every Wednesday for the Hoopers Room. We there for the room tonight. So make sure you come to the halftime app at 6, and then
after that, a couple hours later, catch us at 8 with Coach Couch live right on the Off the Ball Network.
Shout out to Coach. New Year's Eve.
Hey, yeah, come down, Coach. You can watch Peace Drop with us. We can maybe go get some wings or something.
Go get some wings. You know that's cold. Where we go get some wings. Shout out to Couch Coach.
Shout out to Couch Coach though, for real though. But other than that, I'm John W.
For sure.
And we go end our afternoon session right here.
Catch y'all later.